He was signed to a $28 million endorsement contract and did nothing. Nobody has proof of anything that he did. Zero things. No likes, no retweets, no posts, no tree planting.
Kawhi Leonard is now at the center of what may be the NBA's most jaw-dropping scandal ever. The quiet superstar, known for keeping his emotions locked down, has just been hit with a lifetime ban after his name surfaced in a shocking $28 million fraud scheme, and he's not going down alone. The receipts, the contracts, and the paper trail paints a story that feels more like a Hollywood thriller than a basketball headline. It all began not with Kawhi's jumper or a secret deal, but with the implosion of a company nobody was paying attention to until it all went up in flames.
What I wanted to do was find Aspiration's bankruptcy filing. And I gotta now reach over to this file over here to get this. Is this it? Yes, this is it. In this packet, there is a clue.
In March 2025, a so-called eco-banking firm named Aspiration filed for bankruptcy, and with it came a tidal wave of broken promises, angry investors, and court documents that would pull Kawhi Leonard straight into the mud.
The endorsement deal. It was structured in a way that would make even the most seasoned contract experts do a double take. To understand the magnitude of this discovery, we need to examine the company at the center of this scandal, Aspiration, founded in 2013 by two Harvard graduates.
That's when investigative bulldog Pablo Torre spotted something buried in those filings that blew the case wide open. One name kept popping up: KL2 Aspire LLC. When Torre traced the company through California's Secretary of State, it led straight back to Kawhi Leonard himself. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was the smoking gun that set off a 7-month investigation and uncovered over 3,400 pages of explosive evidence.
For example, let's say, purely hypothetically, that you had 3,487 pages of documents,
give or take,
and that added up to a single tree. Aspiration, what they did was offer to balance that out by arranging the planting of one tree in your name, replacing the tree that you killed.
This shadow company, branded with Kawhi's own jersey number, represented the final installment of a so-called endorsement deal with Aspiration, a company that claimed it was saving the planet by planting trees. But here's the kicker. This wasn't some ordinary endorsement. The way this deal was structured would make even the savviest contract lawyers scratch their heads. To really get the scope of this mess, you need to understand Aspiration's game. Founded in 2013 by Harvard Golden Boy's Andre Cherney, once the youngest speechwriter in the White House, and Joe Sandberg, a private equity hotshot who cashed in on ventures like Blue Apron, the company built itself up as the cool, green alternative to traditional banks.
To my knowledge, out of all of the projects that Aspiration undertook for carbon offsets, there was only one site visit during my tenure.
Wait, so just to be clear, I'm looking at a spreadsheet with a zillion, approximately, projects having to do with forestation and tree plantings.
Their pitch? Simple and genius, at least on the surface. For every swipe of your debit card, Aspiration would plant a tree to erase your carbon footprint. Customers felt good, the company cashed in, and the brand skyrocketed. And when it came to star power, Aspiration didn't hold back. They rolled out what looked like the Avengers of climate change. Robert Downey Jr. lent his Iron Man voice to their ads. Leonardo DiCaprio signed on as an investor and advisor. Drake even hyped up their mission in Rolling Stone.
And so what I started doing was reaching out to dozens of former Aspiration employees. And I was looking for any information about KL2 Aspire LLC. And what happened was a grand total of 7 of them ultimately agreed to interviews.
Orlando Bloom, Cindy Crawford, and her daughter Kaya Gerber all joined the squad. With celebrity backing, the company raked in over $865 million, and by 2021, it was worth a jaw-dropping $2.3 billion. Everyone thought this eco bank was on the fast track to Wall Street glory. But behind the scenes, the Save the Planet talk was nothing more than smoke and mirrors.
The grand total number of times that I found Kawhi Leonard ever publicly referencing Aspiration was this.
Ultimately, 0.
0. 0 times.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard mentioned Aspiration.
Federal investigators later revealed that many of Aspiration's tree planting pledges were fake, exaggerated, or flat out made up. The glamorous green empire was really just a house of cards, ready to collapse at any second. By August 2025, the facade shattered when co-founder Joe Sandberg pleaded guilty to running one of the slickest cons in finance, scamming investors out of somewhere between $243 million and $248 million. And in the rubble of that confession stood Kawhi Leonard, tied to a $28 million secret payday that the NBA now says never should have happened. The Department of Justice and the SEC didn't just find a sloppy green company. They uncovered a monster fraud machine. Their investigation showed Aspiration had been straight up misleading investors about its finances, its operations, and even its planet-saving projects. But the tree scam was only the surface of a much bigger iceberg.
The month after that, it turns out, Steve Balmer, this is September, broke ground on the Intuit Dome. Now, this is, David, the most expensive NBA arena ever constructed.
Pablo Torre's digging revealed the company's most secret endorsement deal wasn't with a Hollywood A-lister or a pop star. It was with Kawhi Leonard himself. And the terms of that deal were so outrageous, they made even the most cynical sports insiders do a double take. Buried in the bankruptcy filing was the smoking gun. KL2 Aspire, LLC, was listed as being owed a final $7 million payment on a deal worth a jaw-dropping $28 million over 4 years. And here's the real shocker. According to Torre's sources, this deal wasn't just unusual, it was engineered to cheat the NBA salary cap. The documents he pulled told a story of deliberate deception. Leonard's contract was Aspiration's biggest endorsement by far, worth more than 4 times the combined value of all their other celebrity deals.
Nothing. He didn't have to do anything. There was a clause for an out in every single KPI. So they weren't actually key performance indicators, KPIs.
But unlike Robert Downey Jr. lending his Iron Man voice, or Drake hyping the brand in Rolling Stone, Kawhi's deal was kept totally hidden from the public. This wasn't just Kawhi being private, it was by design. Torre's investigation showed zero trace of Leonard ever promoting the company. No commercials, no Instagram posts, no appearances, nothing. For a man collecting $7 million a year, he wasn't required to lift a finger. That silence wasn't accidental. It was written into the contract itself. Torre got his hands on a signed agreement, and it read like something out of a mob playbook.
You may wonder how many likes and retweets did he give?
Is it 0?
Of course it's 0!
Oh my God.
He did nothing! He literally did nothing.
A full-on no-show job. Leonard was guaranteed the money without doing any work. And this wasn't just shady, it was dangerous because the structure of the deal was aimed at one thing: getting around NBA salary cap rules. This is where things get even messier. To see how deep it went, you have to connect the dots between Kawhi Leonard, Clippers owner Steve Balmer, and Aspiration. Those threads tied together into what execs inside the NBA are now calling a cardinal sin against competitive balance. Balmer, worth well over $100 billion and ranked among the richest men alive, was in a unique spot.
Now, less than a month after that, December 2021, it was announced that Steve Ballmer, who is again hailed as the very best investor of the last 20 years, joined Oaktree Capital Management in investing a total of $315 million into Aspiration, which was subsequently valued at $2.3 billion.
Not only was he the owner of the Clippers, but he was also Aspiration's biggest private investor. That meant the same guy signing Kawhi's checks as a player was funneling him millions through a side deal with his own company. The timeline made everything look like a carefully scripted heist. In August 2021, Kawhi signed his 4-year, $176 million max contract with the Clippers. Just a month later, Balmer dropped a bombshell.
And then, oh, by the way, we also have a marketing deal with Kawhi Leonard, a $28 million organic marketing sponsorship deal with Kawhi. And that, if I had any questions about it, essentially don't, because it was to circumvent the salary cap, LOL.
Aspiration would become the founding partner of the brand new Intuit Dome in a massive $300 million 23-year sponsorship deal. The move was sold as an eco-friendly partnership that would make the arena the greenest in the world, perfectly fitting Balmer's public image. But behind the curtain, Torre uncovered the real play. In November 2021, just 2 months after Balmer's investment and that big sponsorship announcement, Kawhi quietly registered KL2, Aspire LLC in California. That was the skeleton key for the whole setup, laying the groundwork for what insiders later called a systematic effort to bend NBA rules beyond recognition. And the contract Torre uncovered told the whole story. Effective April 1st, 2022, Kawhi's 4-year, $28 million endorsement agreement wasn't like anything the sports world has seen before. It included unprecedented clauses that made it practically impossible for Leonard to violate the terms. No appearances? Fine. No promotions? Fine. No work at all? Still fine. It was less an endorsement deal and more a guaranteed payout machine, wrapped in legal language that gave Leonard millions for nothing. The contract Torre uncovered had clauses so outrageous they barely seemed real. Leonard was granted total control over all content. He could veto any request from Aspiration without consequence. Another line gave him the right to refuse any action if he believed it didn't match his personal values, no matter how minor. That meant he had a built-in escape hatch for literally everything.
One being that Kawhi's uncle was calling.
Wait, this is Uncle Dennis.
Uncle Dennis. Uncle Dennis was calling, and Uncle Dennis demanded payment. It was priority one. Like, it was something that had to be done, and it was crucial to our relationships with Balmer and the Clippers.
When David Sampson, the former Miami Marlins president and a sharp critic of shady sports contracts, reviewed the agreement, even he was stunned. The requirements were laughably minimal. Leonard only had to sign 50 items if asked, post 5 casual social media interactions, and submit 1 photo per month during the NBA season. That's it. Yet Leonard didn't even bother to fulfill those tiny obligations. But the most damning clause of all was buried deep inside: the termination provision. The deal could be canceled if Leonard ever stopped playing for the Clippers, tying the payments directly to his employment with the team. That detail made it crystal clear this wasn't about Kawhi's personal brand or endorsement power. It was about funneling money to him because he was a Clippers player. The financial architecture behind it all was deceptively simple but devastating. Steve Balmer personally invested $50 million into Aspiration through his private firm, Pack Money, propping up the company right as it prepared to bankroll Leonard's $28 million payday. That cash injection came during a $315 million funding round in December 2021 that boosted Aspiration's valuation to $2.3 billion.
There were weekly meetings about who was going to get paid what and when. And during those weekly meetings, Kawhi Leonard's contract was always set to be paid.
Even in a time of total financial hardship for the company. Why?
Torre spoke with 7 sources inside Aspiration, and their testimonies ripped the lid off the deal's true purpose. One former employee, speaking through voice modulation to hide their identity during an ongoing federal probe, revealed that Leonard's contract was openly described internally as salary cap circumvention. Execs even joked about it, acknowledging how improper it was while cashing in on the arrangement. This single endorsement dwarfed every other deal Aspiration ever signed, worth more than 4 times the combined total of Robert Downey Jr., Drake, and the rest of their celebrity crew. And Leonard didn't even lift a finger. Balmer's fingerprints were all over it too. Internal emails Torre obtained showed the Clippers owner actively pitching Aspiration like he was on their payroll. He even introduced the company's founders to the CEO of Intuit, hyping up their shared passion for the Clippers and the Intuit Dome project.
When you look at this list, how many of those, and these are all listed as deals, letters of intent, dated as of early 2021, before Balmer had made his big investment. How many of those are fake?
80-90%.
Balmer wasn't just an investor. He was acting as their biggest connector and hype man. The web of connections only got tighter when Torre traced how Leonard first linked with Aspiration. In early November 2021, just after Leonard's shell company was registered, and right as Balmer's investment was finalized, Clippers officials facilitated the introduction. While such introductions weren't illegal under NBA rules, the timing painted a picture of coordination that was impossible to ignore. Piece by piece, the sophistication of the scheme became clear. Balmer supplied the money. Aspiration funneled the payments. Leonard collected compensation that sat outside the NBA salary cap, but was undeniably tied to his status on the Clippers. The brilliance of the plan was how clean it looked on paper.
But Joe Smith and Glenn Taylor, the owner of the T-Wolves, had worked out a side deal, and it was written on paper because they were afraid Glenn Taylor was going to die before the completion of that contract. It's a total side, fascinating story.
But this has the potential to be the biggest salary cap crime that we've seen.
So legitimate, that it stayed invisible for years. Even while Aspiration plastered its eco-friendly branding across the Clippers and rolled out celebrity ads with A-list stars, Kawhi's $28 million deal remained a ghost. Never announced, never publicized, never even whispered about in public. A secret pipeline of cash hidden in plain sight. The only reason this secret pipeline of cash ever saw the light of day was because of Torres' obsessive digging through bankruptcy records, files most people would never even glance at. What he found inside was damning. Internal emails showed that even as Aspiration's finances went up in flames in 2022, one priority stood above all else: Kawhi Leonard's payments. Former employees admitted that during weekly crisis meetings, where they debated who would get paid as the company sank deeper into debt.
Look, they conned me.
You're one of the richest men in America.
They conned me. I made an investment in these guys thinking it was on the up and up, and they conned me. At this stage, I have no ability to predict why they might have done anything they did, let alone the specific contract with Kawhi.
Leonard's $7 million installments were always locked in first. Regular staff and other creditors went unpaid, but Kawhi's deal was treated as untouchable. Behind the scenes, the man making sure those payments kept flowing was none other than Dennis Robertson, aka Uncle Dennis. Leonard's longtime advisor and uncle wasn't just whispering in his nephew's ear. He was on the phone, pressuring Aspiration executives. Sources told Torre that Robertson would call in demanding payments, and his demands were always treated like law. Priority number one, while the company collapsed around them. The pattern was too perfect to be a coincidence. Leonard's Clippers extension, Balmer's $50 million investment, the Intuit Dome sponsorship, and Leonard's hidden endorsement contract all lined up in a timeline that screamed deliberate coordination. Despite everyone denying it, the paper trail suggested this wasn't sloppy business. It was a carefully staged operation. And when you consider who was behind it all, the puzzle pieces fit. Steve Balmer wasn't just a random rich guy. He was the former CEO of Microsoft, one of the wealthiest men alive.
According to Athletic, he sees salary cap circumvention as a cardinal sin in the NBA and will always keep a watchful eye on that front. If any relevant evidence of improper benefits surfaces in the future, the league will reopen the investigation and pursue the charges yet again.
With the resources and brainpower to build financial structures most people couldn't even imagine. His Aspiration investment wasn't just philanthropy or business. It was the financial engine that allowed secret payments to Kawhi while giving everyone involved plausible deniability. But here's the catch with schemes this complex. Eventually, they collapse under their own contradictions. And when federal investigators finally zeroed in, the house of cards came crashing down in spectacular fashion. The first cracks showed in 2022 when Aspiration, despite raising nearly $1 billion, was already struggling to pay basic bills. Insiders reported that staff salaries, vendors, and even critical operating costs were delayed, but Leonard's checks always cleared. That preferential treatment would later become a smoking gun for investigators trying to figure out why a supposedly green bank was so obsessed with paying one NBA player. By 2024, the noose was tightening. The DOJ, SEC, and even the Commodity Futures Trading Commission had launched parallel probes, pulling apart Aspiration's records piece by piece. What they uncovered wasn't just exaggerated green promises. It was systematic fraud on a massive scale. The investigation hit its boiling point in August 2025, when Aspiration's co-founder Joe Sandberg, once a political heavyweight and celebrated entrepreneur, stood in court and pleaded guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud. He admitted to defrauding investors out of at least $248 million. On the same day, the SEC hit Sandberg with formal charges, accusing him of raising over $300 million from investors using fake financials and bogus sustainability revenue. Internal memos revealed that up to 90% of the company's supposed deals and contracts were pure fiction. Sandberg's guilty plea didn't just sink Aspiration's green reputation, it ripped open the ugly truth. The entire empire was built on lies, with fraudulent numbers, fake tree programs, fabricated business relationships. And buried deep inside all of it was the deal that kept Kawhi Leonard quietly pocketing millions. When Aspiration finally collapsed and filed for Chapter 11 in March 2025, the bankruptcy records laid it all bare. Investors like Steve Balmer discovered they had been fed lies about the company's operations, numbers, and future. And the creditor list? That was the smoking gun. The Los Angeles Clippers were listed as being owed $30 million for a sponsorship deal that never materialized. Even worse, KL2 Aspire, LLC, Kawhi Leonard's personal company, was listed as being owed $7 million. The last chunk of his secret $28 million contract. That single filing cracked the case wide open and exposed the scheme to the world. The NBA wasted no time. Commissioner Adam Silver came out swinging, announcing a full-scale investigation that insiders say sent waves of panic through league offices. Executives were left scrambling as they realized the depth of what Torre had uncovered. A sophisticated salary cap dodge that made past scandals look like child's play. The league had only one real precedent to compare this to: the infamous 2000 Minnesota Timberwolves / Joe Smith scandal. That case brought millions in fines, the loss of multiple draft picks, and suspensions for team executives. But this time, the stakes are even higher. Leonard's deal was bigger, bolder, and backed by federal fraud charges. Under the current collective bargaining agreement, punishments can be brutal. Fines up to $7.5 million, the forfeiture of as many as 5 first-round draft picks, the voiding of player contracts, and suspensions for owners and executives. For the Clippers, who are in the middle of their championship chase, those penalties would be a nightmare, crippling the franchise for years to come. Even Leonard's 3-year, $153 million extension signed in January 2024 could get nuked if investigators determine it was tied to the secret endorsement scheme. Imagine the Clippers losing their star, their draft picks, and millions in fines all at once. It's the kind of punishment that could bury their competitive future. Steve Balmer, facing the heat, has gone into full damage control mode. In interviews with ESPN and other outlets, he's been adamant. He was conned by Aspiration, just another victim of their massive fraud. He insists he had no clue about Leonard's deal or its terms, claiming the Clippers only introduced Kawhi to the company, which is technically allowed under NBA rules. But that defense isn't holding up under the weight of Tory's timeline. Internal emails show Balmer didn't just invest $50 million at the exact moment Aspiration needed cash. He was personally facilitating partnerships, hyping up the company, and staying in constant communication with its leadership. The coincidence looks far too convenient. NBA investigators are now zeroing in on whether Balmer's $50 million investment was really a round-trip funding scheme, money cycling through Aspiration, only to end up back in Kawhi Leonard's pocket as disguised compensation for staying with the Clippers. Sources inside Aspiration have openly admitted the deal served no real business purpose. It was just a shell arrangement to move money around while avoiding the cap. And Leonard? True to form, he said absolutely nothing. No press statements, no interviews, no defense, just silence. The same stoic front that's defined his entire career. But this time, that silence only makes the scandal feel even louder. Kawhi's silence might be his trademark, but this time, it could come back to haunt him. As the NBA's investigation heats up, Commissioner Adam Silver has made it crystal clear. Salary cap circumvention is a cardinal sin, and if proven, the league will unleash its harshest possible punishment. But this scandal isn't just about Kawhi or Balmer. It threatens to reshape the entire NBA. Owners across the league are furious, pushing Silver to act fast. They see Balmer's alleged scheme as an unfair edge, powered not by strategy or skill, but by his bottomless billionaire wallet. Behind closed doors, league insiders are already talking rule changes, tightening restrictions on endorsement deals and sponsorships, especially when team owners have financial stakes in the companies involved. The message is clear. The NBA can't allow secret side deals to become the new playbook for the rich and powerful. Fans aren't staying quiet either. Social media is on fire, with millions of posts and videos ripping into the scandal. Outrage is spreading as people question how a system built for fairness could be bent so easily by money. Many are demanding the NBA strip the Clippers of picks, void contracts, and hit Balmer and Leonard with punishments no one can ignore. And it's not just this scandal being questioned. Fans are bringing up Kawhi's controversial 2019 free agency saga, when his camp was accused of fishing for improper benefits. Back then, the NBA never nailed down the proof. But now, with federal investigators circling and 3 agencies, the DOJ, SEC, and the league itself, all digging in, the walls are closing in fast. What happens next could change pro basketball forever. Will Leonard face criminal charges? Will Balmer be suspended or even forced to sell? And could the Clippers' championship window slam shut overnight? So what do you think? Should the NBA drop the hammer with lifetime bans and historic penalties? Or will Kawhi and Balmer somehow escape the fire again? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more explosive stories just like this.